We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure.
We become too dependent on the United States as our biggest customer, with more than 90% of our steel exports. Must rely more on Canadian steel for Canadian projects.
On June 4th, 2025, President Trump made a significant announcement.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
A new 50% tariff on steel imports. This bold policy is the culmination of years of growing dependence between the United States and Canada, where over 90% of Canadian steel exports have flowed south. This tariff decision, however, has far-reaching consequences, not just for the steel industry, but for a wide range of businesses across North America. Historically, American companies have heavily relied on Canadian steel to fuel manufacturing and construction. But now, with the sudden imposition of a 50% tariff, Canada has been forced to shift its focus. Steel prices surged dramatically within hours of the tariff's announcement. A ton of U.S. steel, which was previously priced around $700, has now shot up to $900, a direct result of the tariff hike. The economic ripple effect was immediate and profound. Within days, Canada's steel mills, which supply much of the United States automotive industry, ground to a halt as demand vanished. The disruption hit Detroit's assembly lines first, halting production at multiple plants. The result? Presses stood still, robots were idled, and workers on night shifts found themselves temporarily laid off. Ford Motor Company, one of the largest automotive manufacturers in the U.S., faced a staggering $500 million increase in steel costs for their F-Series trucks, which consume 1 ton of steel per vehicle. While the steel price shockwaves rocked American factories, the Canadian steel industry wasn't just sitting idle. Mills in Hamilton, Ontario, roared back to life as they pivoted to export to Asia, all while the steel that used to feed Detroit's needs was now bound for new markets. The Canadian government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Mark Carney, quickly branded the tariff as a catastrophic mistake, calling it an own goal that could backfire spectacularly. In response, Carney threatened to impose export quotas on essential Canadian minerals, including steel, should the United States fail to roll back the tariffs. The diplomatic tension was palpable. On Wall Street, analysts saw the tariff as a harbinger of disaster for U.S. manufacturers, leading to a sharp decline in stock prices. The tariffs, originally designed to protect American industry, had instead handed Canada the reins to control the North American steel supply chain. Despite the rapid backlash, the U.S. administration stood firm. But why did a move intended to protect American jobs end up starving Motor City of the vital material it requires for car manufacturing? Why is Canada suddenly rationing its steel as if it were a strategic commodity? And perhaps most importantly, who will bear the true cost of this policy? Ottawa, Beijing, or Main Street, USA? The answer is complicated, and it all began with that fateful pen stroke on June 4th. By lunchtime on that day, U.S. customs agents were enforcing the new tariffs on steel, imposing a 50% duty on all incoming imports. The ripple effects were immediate. The price of steel surged by nearly $150 per ton in just 24 hours, marking a massive shift in the supply chain that would affect automakers, construction companies, and a wide range of industries. Automakers who depend heavily on steel for manufacturing vehicles. If you're into global news, make sure to check out my other channel, Planet Watch. We dive deep into global news, and I know you'll love it. The link is in the description below. The U.S. government's decision to impose such high tariffs has triggered retaliatory actions from Canada. On July 21st, a group of senators from the Great Lakes region crossed into Ottawa to beg for the steel blockade to be lifted. Prime Minister Carney, however, was firm in his position. Canada would not back down. Instead, Canada doubled down by announcing a $1 billion fund to modernize its steel mills, shifting to more environmentally friendly and cost-efficient methods of production, including electric arc and hydrogen-powered furnaces. This move was designed to ensure that Canadian steel remains competitive, while also capitalizing on the growing demand for green manufacturing practices in the European market. As Canada began to move forward with its Green Steel initiative, U.S. automakers struggled to secure the steel they needed. Ford, for example, found itself in an increasingly precarious position. The company's River Rouge plant, which relies heavily on Canadian steel, had to idle several production lines, unable to meet the demand for materials. Meanwhile, Canadian mills in Ontario were ramping up production, preparing to ship steel to Europe and Asia, where carbon emissions were set to become a key consideration in future trade deals. By mid-July, Canada's steel mills were already benefiting from a growing market for green steel in Europe, where countries were beginning to implement a Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. This system would impose a tax on imported steel based on the carbon emissions involved in its production, giving an edge to cleaner, greener steel like that produced in Canada. With Canadian steel powered by renewable hydroelectricity and nuclear energy, Canadian mills were positioned to benefit from this system, while U.S. plants, still heavily reliant on coal, faced higher costs. The issue worsened for American energy contractors. Canada's move to restrict steel exports from non-free trade partners had a direct impact on the U.S. energy sector. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario signed a new memorandum that required all new pipelines and rail infrastructure to use Canadian-made steel. This ruling effectively shut out American suppliers from bidding on key energy contracts. For U.S. energy companies, this move could mean significantly higher costs for steel, further exacerbating the economic impact of the tariffs. This is where the trade war takes a curious turn. While the U.S. imposed tariffs to protect its industries, the result has been the creation of a new geopolitical playing field. With Europe setting up its own carbon tax system and Canada investing heavily in green manufacturing technologies, U.S. manufacturers are caught between two worlds, paying higher prices for imported steel or investing in outdated coal-powered blast furnaces that face the risk of hefty carbon taxes in Europe. As the world watches, the question now becomes, will Washington dismantle its tariff wall and embrace the shift towards green steel production, or will it continue to fight a losing battle? With Canada leading the charge in the green steel revolution and Europe ready to implement carbon-based tariffs, the pressure is mounting on the U.S. to reconsider its approach to trade policy. The tariff debacle has left American industries with a stark choice: evolve with the changing global landscape or fall further behind. If the U.S. continues to shield its markets with tariffs, it risks pushing its industries into irrelevance, while countries like Canada build their future on cleaner, more efficient manufacturing processes. As the negotiations continue, the outcome remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the global steel industry is at a crossroads, and the decisions made in Washington, Ottawa, and Brussels over the next few months will shape the future of steel and the global economy for decades to come. Thanks for watching. If you're into global news, make sure to check out my other channel, Planet Watch. And I know you'll love it. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.